What is up, everybody? Welcome to The Stack. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And on The Stack, we talk about 3 comic books that came out very much today. We don't do that. We talk about lots of comic books that
Yeah,
came
not
out
just
today.
3 of them.
You know what? It used to be 3 comic books. Now it's
Expansion.
like 45.
Exactly, because that's what anything good has to do is do more of it.
More.
And this is like comic book reviews on demand. CROD.
We're a media platform, and so we're just expanding in all fronts at all times. We're ready to go public. Are you guys ready to invest in our IPO?
Yeah, get ready for these C-Rods, you guys. Here we go. All right, let's kick it off with a big one. Fantastic Four #1 from Marvel Comics. This is a big relaunch, written by Dan Slott, art by Sara Pichelli. The Fantastic Four, we knew they weren't dead. We knew Reed and Sue
We
were out
didn't.
there.
Ben Grimm certainly thought they were dead.
Yes.
I trust him, and I don't know why you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't like him because he's made of rocks, because he looks weird?
I got to be honest. This
Team
is the
Grimm.
only reason I don't trust him is because we saw a lot of scenes of them alive and exploring the universe. That's the only reason in other comic books. And we
You're
read
a
that.
horrible person.
Yeah, I'm a pretty bad person. But if you've been reading Marvel 2-in-1, that title has been great
So
by
good.
Chip
Can't
Zdarsky.
recommend that enough.
Human Torch and Ben Grimm have been traveling across the multiverse trying to find their lost partners. As you mentioned, Ben Grimm thought they were dead. Human Torch thought they were alive. That's where we pick up in this book. What did you think of this big first issue?
Pete?
Well, I'm not a huge fan of the Fantastic Four. I do like Dan Slott. I think this is a great vehicle for him, and I'm very much on board with this, with the caveat that Sue Storm, if people are nicer to Sue Storm, I feel like Reed Richards is constantly being a dick to her, and
Because he's working too much.
I'm tentatively excited about this book.
They've been dead for a long time, so
Yeah.
But
he
not
hasn't
dead.
been working too much.
Just off screen. They've been
Off-screen.
off screen. They've been working nonstop.
I have a problem with object permanence. If I'm not looking at something, it's dead.
That's right.
That's why I'm so relieved to find out that you guys are alive. I haven't
you,
seen you
I
all week.
just want to mention you keep looking back and forth between us. When you look at me, Pete's still over there, and vice versa.
That's what's weird to me because I look over here and I'm like, oh my God, what about Alex? We have to protect him. He's gone.
He's
Then I
dead.
look at you and I'm like, oh, Pete. Okay, that was bound to happen.
Here's what I thought was surprising about this issue, and this is getting into spoilers a little bit. To me, I agree with Pete. Love Dan Slott. Sara Pichelli's art is perfect. Very
Really
excited to have them as the team going forward to the title. This is a very cautious first issue. I thought there were going to be bigger swings right out of the bat, but Dan Slott is somebody who respects Marvel history, loves the characters, wants to pay tribute, and often I think that almost leads to him walking over things gingerly until he really starts to get into the mix of it, and then he changes things up for good. We saw that happen with Spider-Man. We saw that happen with Silver Surfer. I think that's what's going to happen here. There's a really nice classic issue, but again, it's off to a very simple start, which an emotional start, but a simple one. Pete is
hold on.
raising his hand.
Hold on, Pete, just 1 second. I feel like I get that, but at least it doesn't feel like a standard cookie cutter first issue
Sure.
where it's like, oh, wow, look, the Mole Man's back. What a fucking surprise. That dude is always plotting just underneath the earth.
Right.
This, I feel like the whole issue is rooted in Ben Grimm's experience. We have this proposal with Alicia,
Oh, that was so
which
great.
was very nice,
Yeah.
even though, Pete, you're cautious about weddings in comics, but that's one coming at you. And I think it was rooted in the characters. So, yes, it didn't feel like a statement about Fantastic Four.
Sure.
But I felt like it was, I think Dan Slott he loves the Thing, and I think he was really trying to speak through him first.
Yes, Pete,
Now,
you've been patiently
I felt
raising
like
your
there
hand for
was
some reason.
a curveball in this issue where Ben starts talking about this story about this beacon that can help people when they're lost, and I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Giant Storm's got to sing because they talked about him being a good singer in the issue. He's going to sing. That's going to lead them the way home. That's how they're going to find him. That didn't seem like it was the case. Like they had it all figured out.
Well, I think
It
that's
was
still
just a
gonna happen.
nice story.
I think it's
you're-
going to relate
yeah.
because he literally holds it in his hand. Is like, this thing is important, and then it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yes, it's going to be back in the second issue, which is the next issue,
Right.
which is when they get back together.
Yes,
I also-
and they do promise that in there's a cute little story with the Impossible Man at the end that's drawn by Scotty Young, where they say, okay, everybody just calm down. They're going to get together in the next issue, which I think is great. One thing I did want to mention that you mentioned Dan Slott's love for the Thing, and one thing that this felt like was
One thing he slotted in the Thing story here.
that was pretty fantastic for me to read.
Yeah.
This really does feel like a culmination of everything Dan Slott has been writing. What?
Sorry, when someone says culmination, you got to be like culmination.
Oh,
really?
interesting. I thought you were making another pun, except there wasn't one there. So I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
Pete
why I was
didn't know what we were
confused
doing.
as
He just thought we were saying words.
He wrote a great run on The Thing. He wrote a great run on She-Hulk. Both of the characters play in here, so he's really bringing those together. There's no doubt in my mind that at some point Silver Surfer, which he also did a fantastic run on, is going to show up because Silver Surfer is so tied to the Fantastic Four. So just from the perspective of Dan Slott has been slowly building up to this, that's great. And the Fantastic Four is in no better hands.
Also, it makes me think that like Marvel's doing a great job of who should be working on what project, because it seems like Dan Slott is the perfect writer for this. Yeah. Also, I really like the Johnny Storm stuff. Johnny Storm can be an annoying character like Justin is on our show, but I feel like...
But the heart of the team.
But when done really well...
And the best singer?
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
Flame on.
But I think that... I like the fact that Johnny was the only one who still believed.
He's a real believer. Didn't Dan Slott on our show once sing a song from the perspective of the Thing?
Yes, 100%. He did.
Okay, great.
Yeah, he wrote a song for the Thing series.
Yeah.
And I believe it got cut.
And then he sang it live
Yeah,
on
he
our
sang
show.
it live on our show.
So look that up in our archive.
Also, didn't Dan Slott say that he drinks tears of comic book fans?
Sure, he said that as
Seems
well. Let's not
unrelated
focus
to
on that
this.
too
Okay,
much.
all right.
The one other thing that I want to mention, this is such a very little thing, but weirdly I was actually thinking about this the other day before I read the issue. So the Thing, Ben Grimm, is a Jewish character. As a Jewish man myself, there's not a lot of Jewish characters in Marvel Comics or comics in general, and people often ignore or forget about the fact that Ben Grimm is Jewish. During his run on The Thing, Dan Slott gave him a bar mitzvah, which was really nice and fun. And here, it's a little thing, but you hear Ben Grimm say "oi."
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's a silly, it is. It's a silly shout out, but it made me very happy to not ignore that aspect of his personality.
I don't hear you say "oi" a lot. Close.
Yeah, you could batch, but you don't.
Pumpernickel bagel. You know what I'm talking
Okay,
about?
now we're talking.
Put some gefilte fish on this
now
manila.
that's a
boy.
catchphrase.
Now I'm
super
sounding
Jewish.
like I'm anti-Semitic, perhaps.
Yeah, I know. That's why you brought up a point, and I just simply asked a simple question, and you really went with it.
Excellent. Would you say pick this up? Are you guys on board?
Yes, I would also like to say I really enjoyed the Steve Ditko stuff in here. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
Yes. Marvel is running multi-page tributes to Steve Ditko right at the front of the issue.
As
and
they should.
That's pretty wonderful. Also, the backup story by Dan Slott and Assad Ribic that involves Dr. Doom returning to his villainous roots.
yes.
Also great.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom, way better as a villain.
I agree.
Yeah, Doom's one of my favorite villains.
I thought this was great, and as we said earlier, I would definitely recommend picking up Marvel 2-in-1 as a great sort of lead up to this first issue.
There you go. Let's move to a big DC comic release that's also coming out. Sandman Universe #1. Justin, as our resident Sandman fan.
The Sandman. Sand fan.
That's a
boy.
Adam Sandler fan, is Sandman.
Oh, Sandman?
Yeah, the Sandman.
I'm a Sandman. Happy Gilmore all day.
Yeah. Oh, really?
No.
Oh. What'd you think about this book? Pete, stop raising your
No,
hand.
I'm a Happy Gilmore fan.
That's what I'm
right.
saying.
Yeah,
I know. Pete's the Sandman on this
Yeah.
show.
Yep.
You're a sad
I'm a Sand
Gilmore
fan.
fan.
I thought this was great. I mean, it's so interesting how there's so many times when you encounter the Dreaming or any of the Sandman characters, it's like, let's check in on this crazy library. So when we started here in this issue, I was like, okay, I feel like we've seen this, but it had a new angle. Lucian, the caretaker, the librarian, he's losing his memory, and then the rest. I feel like he sort of sets the game here, where we're re-meeting all of our favorite characters from the Sandman universe, or a bunch of them, and there's a bunch of little problems affecting everyone that are going to be the basis of a bunch of new stories.
Now, as someone who hasn't read Sandman,
Wait, what?
yeah, I've never read Sandman.
Oh, okay.
the
You're not
series.
taking the perspective of a character who hasn't read Sandman. You legit have not read Sandman.
That's
You've
true.
read none of it?
None of it.
Wow.
How'd you get away with that?
I don't know. It's when they start talking like Romeo and Juliet speak that I fucking check the fuck out.
Nice. Okay.
Great. I like how you slammed Sandman, one of the greatest comics of all time, and William Shakespeare, the greatest playwright of all time, in one sentence.
I don't care.
You're such a millennial.
No, fuck you.
What'd you think of the Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes?
Well, I'm just going to
Romeo?
ask you, do they talk like this the whole time, or is it like...
I mean, I hate to tell you, but it is English.
Fuck.
So it's not like it's that hard to tolerate. What about, do you like in when the demon of DC Comics fame speaks in rhyme?
Nope.
You don't like that either?
Nope.
So you just like yes or one word, yes or no answers, basically, in your characters? Great.
Yep.
Yes, these characters do speak like that because they are living, it's a very literary
There's
title.
a reason
wait,
the
hold
Hulk,
on, but you
Wolverine,
like-
and Punisher are my favorite.
Hold on. I want to take an even bigger step back, though. You like American Gods, though, right?
The TV show, yeah.
The book?
I haven't read the book.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, because this is a very typical Neil Gaiman thing. Neil Gaiman writes stories about stories.
Yes.
And a lot of his characters, I don't even, it's not even close to Shakespeare necessarily. It's more them talking like storybook characters.
Yeah.
Like they are very purposely being written, is more what's going on.
Cool.
I liked
anyway,
it.
yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was good. Like you said, it's very
Art's
much
amazing.
I was surprised how much of an overarching story there was for this issue, particularly because it was mostly a preview of a bunch of other comics. But it looks like it is going to be this interconnected, overarching big story that's going to tie all of the books together. That's very exciting. I got to tell you, I was never really into the Lucifer series. That was one of the ones that passed me by. But I'm excited about the direction they're going with that one in particular.
Yeah.
That looks messed up.
Yeah, it
based
looks
on this
very
issue.
dark and very aggressive.
Yes.
I was very excited for the last bit that we learned that Daniel, who inherited, who is Sandman, but he
Is he
sort of his
the
son
crow
in a
guy?
weird way.
The guy who was a crow?
No.
No, different
No,
guy.
Daniel is the new aspect of Morpheus, the King of Dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's sort of off.
By the
in-
way, if you're listening at home, real quick, Pete, his eyes rolled back in his head, and he literally just fell down on the ground.
I think it was the word aspect he didn't like. If I could pinpoint when his eyes started rolling. I like the idea of
Is
Daniel.
this Daniel?
Yes. Daniel
Okay.
in New York exploring the city. Turning
Why
his
don't you
back.
say the super white kid?
Turning his back, because that's not right. Turning his back on the dreaming.
Let's move on to an Image Comics book, Hey Kids Comics by Howard Chaykin. Now, this is very much a behind-the-scenes look at... Pete, stop raising your hand. Why are you raising your hand? We're definitely going to all... There's three of us on this podcast.
No, I'm sorry, we don't have time for Pete on this one. We've spent too much time.
Yes.
Please, only one-word answers.
Could I-
One-word answers, no, I'm
Can I ask you-
pentameter, no, I'm in pentameter, Pete.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
When you saw the title, it's like, Hey Kids Comics, I got excited because I was like, oh, it's going to be a comics for kids. But
No.
that's not it
No,
at all.
that's
And
not
then I
what it
got
is.
really angry.
I would argue it's a sarcastic title.
Ah, you think so?
Yeah.
This comic feels like...
It's misleading as shit is what it is.
Indeed.
It turns out it's one of the most boring comics we read.
This
Aw.
comic, this is Howard Chaykin's seems very autobiographical take on the comics industry in general, and especially the last, 50 years, you could say. And it seems like he's angry, and it feels like...
Very talky.
Yes, it feels like more anger than story here.
Yeah.
So I felt like it wasn't really great.
I like the structure, the layout of the panels
Yes,
in particular. This is following a number of mid-level to low-level comic book artists and writers and hanger-ons as they go through the decades, as the industry changes around them and they don't change with it. I think this is something that's probably going to read a lot better in trade, to be honest, because it feels like the end of the issue just is when it says to be continued. I was like,
Is it?
Is it? What exactly is going to happen next?
It feels like the bad guys win in the end, where
Yeah.
the people who made all the money off the comic book creators are rich, and it's like to be continued. I was like, I don't know, what else do you want to say, man?
Yeah,
This feels like something someone wrote the day they got fired from the job in comics.
I mean, he's been in the comic industry for decades now. So to your point, I think there is inside info there. There's probably a lot of conversations that he's heard from other people. So certainly if you're wanting to get an insider perspective on the industry, it's barely veiled. We recently read a book called The Con Artist by Fred Van Lente. We had him on our live show, which also was very inside baseball, but that had the fun veneer of a murder mystery set at San Diego Comic-Con. This doesn't have that.
Yes.
So, again, I'm kind of curious to see where it goes in the long run because it feels like we're just sort of getting these angry character notes at this point. But we'll see.
I feel like he's going for Mad Men but it's just so bitterly written that you can't really connect with any of the characters.
All right, let's move to something completely different then. Black Badge, number
Yeah.
1 for Boom Studios. Wow, you like this, Pete? I'm surprised.
Yeah,
you want to talk
I'm
about
very
this
excited
book?
about
What's going
this.
on?
You know what this also reminded me of? The psycho Cub Scout dude from Riverdale.
Dilton Doily?
Yep.
He's
Oh,
not.
all right.
I guess he's lightly.
Yeah,
psychotic.
sure. So the concept of the book is that once you earn all of your Cub Scout badges, there's one badge
I would argue
left.
it's Boy Scouts.
Secret
Scout?
society.
I don't know. I
When
did do
you
that.
graduated from
Elite
Cub
Boy
Scouts when you were
Scouts.
like 11.
Sure. I went to Hebrew school, so I wasn't really into all that stuff. We didn't get badges. We got mitzvahs.
Oh, cool. Wait, there's nothing equivalent to. Do you go out in the woods and stuff?
Mitzvahs, you get
No,
another.
You're
I
saying
know
the
that
same
part.
word over. We don't know
mitzvahs,
what
you
it
get
means.
mitzvahs. You get mitzvahs.
Oh, he's
Oi.
broken.
Does that mean badges?
That makes sense.
Are you
Really
saying badges? Are you saying a kind of bread that is thin and wafery?
No,
Badgers.
that's matzah. Do
Oh,
you? Again, glad we're keeping it to one word. Answers. Did you guys go? Was it a camping thing and like exploring?
No, not at all.
Okay, so that's different. Then.
Yeah, it's different.
That's what I
Anyway,
thought.
so the idea is after Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts.
Those are after Cub Scouts.
Yeah.
There's one badge left to get. That's the Black Badge. And basically, that's kids who are running black ops operations
Hell
for some
yeah.
unknown purpose.
Yeah.
This is by Matt Kint. It ties very loosely into his mind management series, which is kind of a neat surprise that happens about halfway through the issue. I thought this was great. This is a great
Very
setup.
enjoyable.
Yeah,
Art's amazing. Writing's fantastic.
It's really fun, and the way he writes it, he sort of slow walks you into the premise. Like it's a bunch of Boy Scouts show up for a trip in South Korea, and the first like 6 pages are them just getting ragged on by these other dudes, and then come to find out they're this like elite Black Ops Special Forces team that is that blows up, that sort of sneaks into North Korea and then blows up a target, a U.S. government target, I guess, and under the idea that if they're caught, they'll get released, which happens because they're just a bunch of dumb kids who got lost.
Yeah.
So really fun concept, well-written, classic Matt Kint style in its
Yeah,
storytelling.
it's very enjoyable.
This is one that I can see getting snapped up immediately for a TV series or movie or something like that, but it's so great. I hope it stays in comics for a good long time. Moving on to another DC comic, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, number 50, big number 50. This is wrapping up the Dark Star War storyline, where Dark Stars, who are basically like extreme Green Lanterns who will kill people for absolutely any reason, have been fighting with the Green Lanterns. The Green Lanterns, to fight back, have recruited some of the worst villains in the universe, including General Zod, Hector Hammond, and a couple more. And this is the final battle there. I've really enjoyed this title. Robert Venditti, who previously wrote on Exo Manowar, and I guess still writes on Exo Manowar, does a really good job with the space stuff. It's fun. He gets Hal Jordan really well. He gets John Stewart really well in particular. And I like this title a lot. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it.
This comic felt a lot like, and I haven't been reading Green Lantern regularly in the last little bit, but this definitely felt like someone got out all their toys and just had them bang into each other a bunch of times. And that's fun. It didn't feel like it had a lot of things to say about Green Lantern, I guess. But if you want to bang in some toys, this is good.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I normally don't like Green Lantern at all. I very much enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, because of the bang bang.
Yeah,
This is, I completely agree with you. This is very much like, hey kids, comics.
Yes,
like
and
it
that's
straight
it.
up
Finally.
is.
They should
And-
call the Howard Chaykin book Green Lantern.
Right. So this is something that I actually find kind of frustrating is there's all of this awful talk online from people that are like, all of these comics are being written for people on Tumblr and whatever else. And that's a lot of the stuff that I like, things like Squirrel Girl, things like some of the other comic books that we'll be talking about coming up. But also these other comics still exist. There are comics like Green Lantern Corps that is straight up just superheroics, dudes in tights punching each other until one of them falls down, and that's pretty much it. And I think that's okay too. Like both of these things exist, and they can continue to exist. You know,
That's
Yeah,
true.
I hope so.
They can exist.
there you go.
This book can exist.
Let's move to the opposite end of the spectrum with Lumberjanes, A Midsummer's Night Scheme,
There
number
we
1,
go.
also from Boom. Now, I thought this would be interesting to talk about because Lumberjanes is enormous. Like, it is a huge, almost industry at this point in
This
terms
is
of...
your comic.
I actually have not been super into Lumberjanes, to be honest.
What?
Yeah, my daughter loves it. She reads as much Lumberjanes as I can hand her. But there was something about the rhythm of the speech of the book that I've never been quite into in terms of reading it on a consistent basis. But it's still a lot of fun. It's set at a summer camp where a bunch of girls can basically explore any weird mystery they can imagine.
And supernatural.
Yeah, supernatural.
Anything.
Like, basically anything can happen at this camp. So it opens it up to a lot of story possibilities. And here we get a riff bringing a lot of things together on a Shakespeare story, Midsummer Night's Dream.
Classic.
With some of the
this must have
characters
been-
from Lumberjanes. So again, because this is an enormous property we don't talk about a lot, I was curious to hear what you guys thought about this special.
I thought reading this, I was like, Zelbin loves this. It's cute, it's fun, it's not my cup of tea, but I can understand why people like it.
Wow,
Okay,
so
well,
cranky.
I agree with you. I think it has the rhythm, and there's something that I don't quite feel. I don't quite get it. To me, it reminds me of like a true children's show. Like I have a 2-year-old daughter. She watches Peppa Pig, so I watch a lot of Peppa Pig, and this feels like that, where it's like the characters are saying the similar things, and the beats are things that we know what's happening at all times. We can predict what's going to happen, and the story is told in that way.
Yeah, but at the same time, I will say that this lead story is fun. There's very sweet moments, particularly towards the end of it. It's all ages friendly, so you can hand this to pretty much anybody.
Yeah.
The backup story is pretty cute
I
as
really
well.
like the backup, actually.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun.
art is by Brittany Williams, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Hellcat and a couple of other things, and she's great.
Yeah, and I thought the backup was nice because it was fun and it was exploring, and it wasn't the first story story was so much. There's just so much talking, and it felt like sort of unfocused talking. And I was like, I feel like I'm swimming in these words here when I already know the story. So let's get going.
Right, but I think for kids, they don't know the story necessarily.
That's true. That's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like it felt like a kids show where you can be telling these stories in ways that we as adults know because we had them when we were kids.
Yeah. Again, I think it's great that these things can exist side by side. If you have kids or have a young comic book reader or potential comic book reader in your life, this special is a great way of getting them sucked into the world of Lumberjanes. Moving on to an ending from Image Comics, Eternal Empire, number 10. Now, I don't know if you guys have been reading this. I've been reading every issue. You used to be our number one Luna Brothers stan, Justin.
Yeah, it used to be.
I really like the sword.
Yeah.
The Luna Brothers
Yeah,
series.
you-
Yeah,
all
now the
about
Turtle
that
Empire
weird-ass
is by
comic.
one of the Luna brothers and Sara Vaughn, who they've been working together for a little while now. This follows two people who have kind of dragon flame powers who are fighting against the titular Eternal Empire. They end that fight this issue, and it teases what happens potentially next. What do you guys think about this wrap up?
I really like the art. Like you said,
The art is beautiful, especially the last couple panels are
the
breathtaking.
facial storytelling is really nice. But I will say this story felt like if someone would watch Star Wars once and an episode of Game of Thrones and were like, I know what I want to tell. A story with lightsabers and dragons and where bad guys lose at the end.
I mean, I think that's fair. It is pretty straightforward. It's not something like Girls or Alex and... What was it?
Ada,
Alex and Ada, or The Sword had a little more complex things going on there. Eternal Empire is a little more straightforward, both as a world and a concept. But like you guys said, very clean art, really beautiful coloring throughout. So if you're looking for a nice, simple fantasy story, I think it's one you can easily jump into.
I really like the back matter in this. There's a page on how much detail went into crafting the sunrise for the three sun world this takes place on. That's the kind of stuff I think is more interesting and something that I would like to see more in the story.
Let's move on to another DC comic, Superman number 2. This is continuing Brian Michael Bendis' run on the title as the entire planet of Earth is sucked into the Phantom Zone. And I'll say this is the first Superman issue that straight up felt like a Brian Michael Bendis issue because not a lot happened and Superman kind of seemed upset and didn't do much.
Yeah, I mean, that is a hell of an analysis of this. Because it did. Not, one part I did like that was just words was Superman talking about how he can turn off his super hearing and his vision and everything, but he doesn't because he cares about everyone.
Yeah,
and
I thought that was
more importantly, he wants to hear the minute after someone screams help and they're rescued by someone near them. He loves feeling that relief with his super senses. I thought that was really cool, a take I hadn't heard before. But otherwise, yes, this was a lot of Superman being like, man, this sucks. What are we going to do, Flash?
I don't want to say sucks, but
Yeah, exactly. And that's literally part of it.
Yeah, which is a little bit of a bummer. It's still, the art is beautiful superhero art throughout. They definitely amped up the danger to throw the entirety of Earth into the Phantom Zone is pretty bananas. I liked how he worked in the rest of the Justice League, but he's had Superman really, Bendis as a writer has been really pushing himself on the action with Superman over the past couple of issues. So it felt like a little bit of a letdown to see him just standing there and not doing anything for most of this one.
Yeah.
I really like the way it started, and I also like the stakes at which I finished. But yeah, I got a little too, I don't know, wordy.
It got super wordy,
But
not Superman-y.
yeah. I mean, I'm excited to see what he's going to do, and I'm still on board with him as writing Superman. But, yeah, this issue didn't blow me away, although I did enjoy parts of it.
Last book we're going to talk about. Oops, sorry, I clicked out there for a second. Hold on. Last book we're going to talk about from Marvel Comics is Darth Vader number 19, kicking off the Fortress
guy's a bad
Vader storyline. Yeah, he's not a very nice guy.
No.
Yeah.
Not a really nice guy.
Babies?
I really like the series a lot. Charles Soule has been doing a great job writing it. This is a storyline that is mixing in a bunch of characters from Star Wars Rebels, which is interesting, bringing in the Inquisitors to back up Darth Vader as he goes around the universe, killing all the Jedi. This is teasing that we're going to find out how and why Darth Vader built his fortress on the, I'm completely blanking on the name of the flame planet that he had his fortress on. And you guys don't know.
Nope.
Okay, I'll look it up at some point or somebody will correct me online. That doesn't really play into this issue. It's mostly about stealing a baby. What'd you guys think about this?
I thought this was the part that holds me back from a lot of these Star Wars titles is so much about the characters and where their fates go. So it takes a little bit of the stakes
Wait, what
away.
happens to Darth Vader?
I won't tell you because I know you've somehow avoided that for
I'm
so
trying
long.
to watch and read everything in order.
Yeah. So you think he's pretty much a hero.
Yeah.
You've only seen episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Right. And when Solo came out, I forgot everything that happened after that.
Yeah.
I wipe my mind
That's
every time,
cool.
Smart.
every time a prequel
Smart.
comes out.
I think that so that takes away the stakes. It's nice. These other characters that they've added serving Darth Vader are really fun, and I think the Jedi we meet in this issue was a good character, and it's a really well told story.
Yeah, I really liked the Jedi dude. It was also weird, though. Seeing Darth Vader handle a baby was weird because he got on a ship and then got off the ship, and the baby didn't have a diaper. I was like, that baby pissed and shit everywhere. It's
100%.
That's why
That
he's
was
so
my concern
angry.
as well. I was like, yo, Darth Vader, that baby's going to shit on your hand.
Yeah, I was like, it was kind of pulled me out of the story a little bit. But I liked the lightsaber stuff, and I really liked the stakes and the action and the things that were happening. So I also really liked the drinking at the end. People being like, Darth Vader's crazy. Yeah, I wonder what he's going to do with this once we're done. I'm sure it'll be something cool.
So I think a solid series. Seems like you're a little mixed on it, Justin. Pete, you like it a lot.
I think it's really well written. It's just
Yeah.
the very nature of it is built around a character where we know truly how his entire life goes. Is it the planet Mustafar?
Yes, it is. Thank you for looking that up. Oh, thank goodness.
No, I looked it up in my brain.
Oh, okay. I'm a bad Star Wars fan, and you guys are good fans. And if you are good,
Ooh.
support us on
gross. So creepy.
patreon.com/comic book club. We have a bunch of fun bonuses and things like that you can check out.
Those are
also,
secret
we have
pants
a
that we
live,
share.
Yes. Also, we have a live show every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. in New York. That's totally free, so come on by and please tell your friends about it. Pete, what else do you want to plug?
Friend us on Facebook so you get to know about the amazing guests we have on our live show.
Follow us on Twitter at Comic Book Live.
Check us out at comicbookclublive.com for the podcast and more, and we'll see you at the comic book shop.
Okay, guys, I'm going to close my eyes. You're going to die.